Hello everybody, this is Tony. Welcome to Fami-Update number 20. This isn't really kind of an update, this is more or less a looking back type video. This is kind of a reflections on the last 19 parts of Fami-Update. Some of the stuff you hear on this episode was either stuff I referenced back in, stuff that I'm referencing back from older updates, or stuff that I'm going to mention, and or stuff I'm going to mention again in the audio commentary, which will come out maybe January or February 2017 for that whole 28-part mini arc. So, yeah, let's kind of talk about the origins of this, because that's something that I've heard a lot of people say, why do Famicom, and mainly, why not emulate? And I'll get the emulation question out of the way. I do not want to emulate because a few things. One, some of the games don't actually work with the emulators I've gotten, and mainly I can point to Lupin the Third. That one does not work with any of the emulations I have on the desktop. So that's one. Two, I think it's more authentic to use something like a cartridge. I mean, this is just, I could show you what I'm playing, I could show you what I'm putting in, and I can kind of, just show my general reaction to it. And I think it just works a lot better than using, emulation. I think that just works a lot better. So, why did I want to do Famicom Month? Well, to start out with, I have been a big fan of Nintendo for 15 plus years now. And, sorry, I'm just trying to grab something here. And for the longest time, I mainly played NES games. And let me tell you, my first console I ever gotten as a kid, I ever bought, was an NES. I bought it when I was 8. And that was, that was 11, almost 12 years ago now. Yeah, that was right around the time I think retro gaming was starting to really come into style, when people were starting to reflect back on games like this and, just kind of give their general impression. So, I started out, and the original consoles I used to play were, N64, PlayStation, GameCube, maybe a little SNES and, PlayStation 2, but, I found myself tied more to NES. And, and now you can kind of see the example out of that. I got this entire, 16-game collection for NES. Now, add in the Famicom games, and that's a whole different story. But I've been a Nintendo fan for 15 plus years now. And there was something in me at one point that just figured, I always wanted to cover something Japanese. And that's been a fascination of mine, Japanese culture, since I was 10. And, yeah, the fact that that was almost 10 years ago just shocks me even more. But I used to read books on Japanese culture and stuff like that. And then when I found out more about, Japanese media and culture, when you're talking about anime, manga, and, Japanese video games, that kind of got me more hooked. And, and just to state for the record, Am I an otaku? I can't really put my finger on it. I like a lot of animes. Yes, I do. I have 1, 2 mangas and all these Famicom games now, so I don't really know. But to get to the general premise, I always wanted to cover something. When I did the top 10 animes, I felt like, okay, I finally did. Oh no, when I did the anime episode for Ransom Reviews, I kind of felt that was a little natural, and that was something where I did do some research, a lot of research, and there were some things I did miss. Yes, you can always point out some flaw or mistake, like some show I maybe missed, but you also got to remember at the time, I only got introduced to a handful of shows, and now, there's a whole array of them, and I'll even get into, how some of the shows ended up, having games that I ended up getting for, said console. But I did that one, and then I did the top 10 animes the beginning of this year, and that was a little more fun because it was kind of putting together my favorite My favorite shows, you know, seeing which one was better than the other, and kind of watching a few of them. I can say for sure, I would make a small change to the list now. Like, I would probably move Space Dandy to number 6, and Yasura Yasura to number 5. I don't know what it is now, but I think it's something about the humor of that show that just makes me laugh even more than Space Dandy. And not to say Space Dandy's bad, it's just, I don't know, I find this show a little more funnier. And we'll talk about how that show got a game. I ended up getting that one, and talk about my reaction to that one. But yeah, I figured kind of the next logical step was Japanese gaming. Famicom Month kind of started way back in the fall of 2015. During that period when I wasn't in college and we didn't have much money. So all the videos I was doing off, for YouTube were mostly the logo videos. And, mini reviews, of course, but mainly stuff that either I've already seen or I already had. So I didn't do that many really new reviews. So I was taking my usual walk. And at one point I was thinking about doing another string of videos because I had done Back to the Future Week, I had done Mario Month, which that's a whole other story. But I was thinking about doing one more, and originally this was planned to be the end of the first season of mini reviews. And I thought of doing Famicom because I kept hearing a lot about Famicom and stuff, and NES, and I figured for a few minutes that I could do an NES, I could do NES week, but at the time, you got Nintendo being copyright happy and stuff like that, and you don't want to get into that. But I figured, I'll do Japanese then and see where that goes. Again, this is coming at a period where I have no money, so I have to kind of, I basically spent that period of what would that have been? August, September, up to March, basically planning out what the idea was going to be. Because originally it was going to be a week, and then it turned into 2 weeks, and then it ended up becoming a month eventually, and that's how we ended up in the situation we got in. So the whole process between August, September to March was mainly focusing on planning the whole run and, figuring out how we were going to do this, and this. At that period, too, I was also starting up the fan funding, and it wasn't really working, and I have, to this point, no clue why. There's a lot of people that love my logo videos, yes. Would I put some money towards the logo videos? Maybe to get Photoshop so we could do some better ones? Yes, I would. But no one wanted to do it. So, no one wanted to do fan funding. And it's kind of like how now no one wants to do my Patreon. It just surprises me. Even when I'm saying I'll do a freaking Undertale review, no one wants to do it. It just surprises me. So, so that whole August, September to March was just planning. We were planning everything out, figuring out how this was all going to work. During that period, too, Skylar left, and, so I didn't have him, so I couldn't finish up Ransom Reviews properly. And he, to this day, is not having it easy trying to start up his version of Ransom Reviews properly. So, and I'm not going to really curse him out on that one. I understand he's got a lot more stress than I do right now. Parents got divorced, and then, the whole, everyone in the family's having tensions with everyone. And then on top of that, when January kicked in, I was back in college, and that helped financially get us started on this, which I'll talk about in a minute. But that was also another stressor added on. So January comes, I'm back in college, of course, and I got my job of work study back. And so I'm doing all the work study stuff, and at that point I know, okay, I'm going to do this. I have most of this planned out for the most part. I think at that point I was just picking games out. Like, I knew the core ones I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do the Mario series, the Zelda series, a couple of, rare, Japanese exclusive games that no one else has heard of that I've heard of. And, I kind of take it from there. So, we now get into March. We did the first update, which was the planning schedule, and let me tell you, between that video and now, that whole schedule got completely changed. Like by the time, I think update number 10 or 11 came around, that whole schedule got completely changed. And that mainly happened because we had a few more troubles financially, mainly with the work study paychecks. There was like a week or so where the paychecks would be a little smaller than the rest of them. And, we had eventually, got it all figured out and sorted out, of course, as you see. But there was kind of that point where we were worried we were never going to be able to finish this. And let me tell you this. We'll talk about now the store where I bought most of the games from, with the exception of one, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Japan GameStock is an online shop where you can buy imports. And let me tell you, this shop is very, very awesome. It is a very awesome shop. They have a lot of nice people who run it. Most of the people who I had message back and forth with, email over a few things, very nice people, very understanding, helped me out with a lot of things, very understanding people. So, yeah, they were very nice, and I would say the one issue I had with them, the one issue was they always kind of raise their prices every couple of weeks. Now, I understand that there's a lot of people that are buying these games up here and there, so of course the prices are going to go up. But when you have stuff that's sitting in a cart for like a few days to a week, then when that price goes up, your cart just went up in price too, and now you're completely jacked. But like I said, it's a minor nitpick. So, here's the thing. The games that I had gotten over the course of these 2 months, yes, those are going to be the ones in the episodes, but there are a few that were going to be in there, but didn't make it, and I feel like I need to shed a little light on them. So, some of the original ideas I had were to do Mega Man 1 and 2, or as in Japan as they know it, it's Rockman. I was also planning to do Donkey Kong 1 through 3? All 3 Donkey Kongs. Popeye was one that was planned to do. And I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Earthbound. The first Earthbound may have been one. Mother. And the reason I didn't do them was we were tight financially. We were very tight. We were squeezed tight on this one. The stuff we got here, I'm glad we got, because we wouldn't have been able to get this if it hadn't been for the financial support from working at work study, of course. But those are the ones that I wanted to do. I didn't get around to doing because money was tight. I do have one, though, that I kind of forgot about, and I didn't realize it until it was way too late. But it was actually thanks to Mario Maker that I forgot. That I kind of realized what I had done. I did not include ice climbers. And from this point on, I'm going to really kick myself in the ass over not doing ice climbers. This also goes the same for a game that many people may know called Famicom Wars. Famicom Wars was actually one that a friend of mine named Devin actually recommended me getting, and I did look it up, and it was a little expensive, and I helped on doing it, but I'll put it like this. If Patreon actually goes through, if people actually support, I might actually eventually cover those games. So, that's your challenge. Support me on Patreon and I'll get you Ice Climbers and Famicom Wars. And heck, maybe I will do Mega Man 1 and 2. If we had like $150, because that's how much those games were. Mega Man 1 was like $90 and Mega Man 2 was, I think 40. So it was like a heck of a lot of money. I'm still in shock over that. So, would I have any tips after this whole entire 2 months of hectic back and forth with all these updates? Would I have any tips for anyone that wants to get into importing? Yes. Tip number 1, understand the cultural differences, mainly with the holidays. When I found out about Japan Golden Week, I was upset. Yes, I was. I was very upset. Because that meant like we had a whole week of nothing, and we had to come up with something to kind of fill that week until, you know, the packages would get shipped and arrived. So that was kind of tough trying to come up with stuff to think of. Tip number 2, understand that when you get these games, they're not going to be English translated for the most part. I think there's probably a handful of games that are translated into English. Some off the top of my head I can think of are Punch-Out!, Super Mario Brothers, I'm trying to think, maybe Mario USA, or aka the US Mario 2, Tetris. Those are the ones that come to my mind. Mario 2 for the disk system. Tip number 3, if you're going to get the console, if you're going to play Famicom, and you chose to do also Famicom disk system, either get both consoles, which overall could cost about $150 to $170, or get what I got, which is a Sharp Twin Famicom, and mine cost $160, and I got it from a shop on Amazon called Arc Japan, which is also where I got my one game that did not come from Japan GameStop, which was Dragon Quest, which the reason I got Dragon Quest from them instead of Japan GameStop was because Japan GameStop I think was offering the game for $35, and I found it on Arc Japan, or no, it was $16, and I found it on Arc Japan for $7. It was just cheaper, and I just went with it. And it got here actually a lot quicker than the other games. So that's another tip too. Look for the cheapest. Condition-wise, look for something that's good or fair. I mean, if it has a tear in it, 1 or 2 little tears, that's fine. But if it's something that's completely destroyed, don't really go for it. Even if it is like priced for $3 or $4, don't go for it. Because it just kind of doesn't seem presentable when you go around saying, oh, I got Famicom games. They're all, you know, ripped up labels and stuff. You know, so most of the games I have here, they're mostly in really good condition. I would say there are a few that are, you know, damaged, but they're mainly damaged with, you know, just wear of time. Also, you know, I've had, you know, 1 or 2 games that have had some water damage on it, mainly with the manuals. Another tip, like I said, understand the cultural differences. Understand that, you know, there are certain games that you may not have heard of that you might be interested in. Kind of do some research on it. Like with Super Mario Brothers 2 for the US here, there are 3 versions of Mario 2 in Japan. There is the original Mario 2 for the disk system, there is Doki Doki Panic for the disk system, and then there is Mario USA, the cartridge. That is there's 3 versions of the same game. The original, and then the re-release that came. That is tough to understand. With talking about Japanese culture, also, like, if you're a fan of a certain show, like a certain anime or something, and you find out they have a game, they might have a whole stockpile of various games for various consoles, or heck, for just the various games for just the system itself. If you're looking for a certain one, just try to understand the title. So, as a perfect example here, we have Lupin the Third, Lumno Wedding Bell, and Dragon Ball Z. These are the trifecta of Japanese culture because these were all three based on either an anime or a manga. This one did come out in the US. These two did not. So. Oh, and also Doraemon. Because why not? But finally, with all of that said, in the end, what are my thoughts on this whole process? It was very tedious. It was very expensive. I do hope, though, it is worth it in the end. The games are fun. I do enjoy playing them a lot. I do hope, though, you guys get a whole enjoyment out of watching the videos when they come. We do hope to soon start shooting, maybe in mid-late August. After the whole, moving brouhaha, which will happen, in the end of July. So, yeah, expect to see them in December. And if you don't see them in December, if I do make an update saying, okay, we push production to January, it'll be, the start of the third year of mini-reviews then. Understand that was mainly due to time constraints and stuff like that. But, with all of that said, this is Tony Rasmussen signing out one last time for the final Fami-Update. Take care, everyone.